When you have a small business, especially when you're starting out, it's really hard to know what expenses you need to track in order to deduct them from your taxes. In this video, I'm going to share a whole bunch of examples so that way you could start to be very effective with how you do your bookkeeping. Here are some ideas. I'll share 25 of them with you. Number one is telephone expenses. So let's say you use your cell phone for your business. That's fine. But if you also use it for personal reasons, then you are like mingling personal with business and it's kind of hard to keep track. If at all possible, keep all business expenses separate from your personal. Get a separate business line if you can, and you could write off 100% of that expense as a business expense. Writing off basically means all you're doing is opening like an Excel sheet or a Google sheet and then just keeping track each month as the bill comes. Write down what you paid. What was your phone bill for? Then what happens is at the end of the year, all of these expenses, you tally, you write down the totals, and you give them to your tax professional so that way they could do your taxes for you. So you have the revenues and you have all these categories of expenses. I have a video that I did, and it has to do with tracking expenses. It has to do with basically trying to take care of your own bookkeeping yourself so that way you don't have to pay somebody on a monthly basis and save money. As a startup, as a small business, it's really hard, especially in the first 5, 10 years. So as much as possible, you want to try to save that money without having to pay somebody. You just kind of do it on your own, like I do. I have two small businesses and I do my own bookkeeping for both. I do it once a month so that way it's not too stressful for me. I keep all my receipts in a folder and then I go and I put them in categories using Microsoft Excel. Another expense is internet expenses, but again, you can only deduct from your taxes what you pay, how much time you spend using the internet for business purposes. So for me, if I have internet at home, I would say about 50% is used by my family and the other 50% is used by me. So if my phone bill each month is $130 for internet, that's how much it is. It's $132 I pay for internet. What happens is half of that I cannot deduct at all. The other half that I do deduct, I can only do 50%. Because, yes, like right now I'm using the internet and it's for business purposes, but guess what? It's not all the time. Sometimes I'm looking up recipes and stuff. So I can only deduct 25% of my internet cost for my business expenses. Any materials, any tools that you use in business, you can also write off, as well as insurance that's tied to your business. Some people have to purchase bonds for their business. That too is, of course, tax deductible. So with car expenses and miles, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit difficult to track. What you want to do is keep track of both and then present both of them separately to your accountant, and they will calculate which is the best path moving forward. Because what happens is you can't claim both. You can't claim the mile like expenses and your car expenses such as oil change and repairs and replacing tires and things like that. So it could be either the car expenses or it could be the miles. So for miles, what you're supposed to do, and I know it's a little bit difficult and challenging, every time you use the car for a business reason, you're supposed to keep track of the miles that you use. So then, at the end of the year, you calculate how much it was. There are people like air conditioning contractors and painters who have trucks. They have work trucks, and there are florists who have work vans. If that's the case, that van is only used for the business. That truck is only used for the business, and it's so easy to keep track of the miles. It's like you look in January how many miles you drove. You look in December what it says. So what's your odometer here? What's your odometer here? You subtract the difference and voila, you know what your total mileage is for the entire year because that vehicle is strictly used for business purposes. If you have a business credit card, you could write off the interest for your taxes. If you have office supplies, if you have contract labor, you can also write those off. So contract labor would be If you have like a really busy season or like one job and you hire somebody to come and subcontract, then in that case, you could write that off. Here are some more expenses that you could write off that you could keep track of on a monthly basis. And again, you use Google Sheets if you'd like, or you could use Microsoft Excel, or if you don't like to use computer programs at all, then what you can do is have folders like manila folders or just folders, envelopes, large envelopes, and then all your receipts you have to print or and then get the copies and put them, categorize them, and then put them in a box. And then at the end of the year or at the beginning of the following year, you take the box to your accountant so that they could do the taxes. If they have to sit and add stuff for you, if they have to sit and do percentages for you, then they're going to charge you a bookkeeping fee. So, as much as possible, just give them the totals. And that way they can just go ahead and plug those numbers into your tax returns. Now, license fees that you might see on the list that I just showed you, that refers to like the city, the county. A lot of times they make you like pay taxes and fees just for operating a business in the county, operating a business in the city. And so, whatever annual fees you have to pay, you can write on your taxes. And there's also such a thing as sales taxes, if depending on if you're selling a product. So that too, make sure you keep track of to give to your accountant. If you donate any money on behalf of your business, if you buy gifts for any clients, you buy gifts for any like business partners, like let's say you're an insurance agent and then you work with a realtor and they refer you business and then every so often you buy them a little gift, you can write those off. Some of these expenses that you see, there are limits that the IRS says exist, and so all you have to do is keep track, and then your accountant will help you with that process. On this last group of expenses that you see, the one that's I think really interesting is the one that refers to credit card processing fees. So I don't know if a lot of people who never have had a business know that we get charged every time a client uses a credit card, right? So there's those fees. Just at the end of the year or the following year, usually you get a statement and it tells you how much was kept. But if I were you, I'd keep track of that too. So let's say you charge somebody $1,000 and in your account they only deposit 970. What happened to the $30? Well, the credit card processing fee, that's like what they keep, right? That's how they make their money. So keep track of that because it adds up. And then that way you can make sure that you put that when you go to do your taxes. If you have to rent a space, so let's say you want to have all your clients meet you at a facility because you are going to have an event for them. Well, you can write that off. If you're taking your employees on a retreat somewhere and you're renting a facility, you can write that off. So rental fees are in fact something that you can keep track of. I have had very little need as far as rental fees go. I did have an office space before that I rented, and this was back in 2003, 2004, back then. And I did write off all my monthly rental fees that I had to pay. But then when I went into my home business for my office space here, my home office, I don't. I obviously have a mortgage and I don't include any of my mortgage as a deduction because I basically, this is a place where I live. I do write off other things like my utility, a small portion, obviously part of the internet, part of like the gardening, water bill and such, but not the mortgage itself. Okay. So I hope you got a lot out of this. I have a lot more on how to be super organized with processes and with systems when it comes to businesses, in personal life, in education, and all kinds of other areas of life, aspects of life. So please be sure to subscribe, share this video with others because I bet you it'll help them tremendously. Any questions, write comments in the description because we are a community on efficiency and organization and we help each other out. I bet you whatever question you have, others might have also, so that way they could see the questions, the responses, and we can have a digital conversation. I will catch you in the next video.